Let's talk about how we can remove material from our sequence to help each of our sound bites be more concise and impactful. I'm going to go into my 3.6 bin and I'm going to load my pre-remove sequence. And this is the very beginning of our show. We've heard it before, but this time, instead of making careful choices about what parts of these sound bites to lay in, I've just laid in the entire thing. So there's going to be things that we need to remove from each of these clips. I'm going to play over it so you can see what I mean.
When you're on the land and you're farming, your life is full. My name is Vince McIntyre. I'm a farmer and I do woodworking, various, I'm a jack of all trades. I've lived here since 1979. I found this place by accident and decided to camp here. 30 years later, we're still here.
All right, so we have a lot of cleanup to do, but we can easily do this by extracting our material. Before I get into extracting material within shots, I just want to quickly show you how you delete entire shots. If I want to delete these two shots here and leave a gap behind, I just select them and then press the delete key on the keyboard. This is called a lift, where you remove shots and leave a gap. I'll undo that, Command or Control Z. To perform an extract with entire shots, instead of just pressing delete, I press Option Delete or Alt Backspace on a PC. All right, and you can see that the shots are gone and everything rippled down to fill the gap. Let me undo that. All right, so that's entire shots, but most of the help that we need is within shots. Let's go to the beginning here and play over it and see where the first moment is that could be more concise.
I'm a farmer and I do woodworking.
Okay, so right here, I'm going to just increase the size of my audio tracks so I can see my audio waveform better. And there are a few ways to do this. First, I'm going to show you how to do it with the razor tool, which is not as efficient, but then I'm going to show you how to do it more efficiently with extract edits. All right, I'm going to play over this again and let's see exactly what we want to remove.
I'm a farmer and I do woodworking.
Okay, I think our solution before was to allow him to say and but then get rid of all of this stuff in the middle. So I'm going to switch over to my razor tool. The keyboard shortcut for that is C. All right, and let me just play over this. About right there, and I'll cut, and I'll play forward with L. And I'm going to cut there. And then anytime you use a tool over here, you would immediately switch back to the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. The selection tool is just that. It allows you to select and manipulate your clips. It's your default mode of editing. Otherwise, if you kept your razor tool open, everything you touched, you would cut. So we want to switch back to our selection tool. And then we know that to get rid of an entire shot, if I just wanted to lift it out, I would press delete. That's not what we want to do. We actually want to select it and then press Option Delete or Alt Backspace. And I'll play over it and see what we think.
I'm a farmer and I do woodworking.
All right, so we got the job done, but it wasn't as efficient as it could be. I'm going to undo a few times, Command or Control Z. And now I want to show you how to perform an extract edit, which is more dynamic and can be performed in less steps. So to perform an extract edit, I just want to make sure that I have the appropriate track selected of what I want to remove, video and audio, which I have. And then I'm just going to put an in and an out point around what I want to extract.
And
put an in point there. And I'll put an out point there. And I'm going to increase the size of my program monitor so I can show you the on-screen key. The extract command is right here, keyboard shortcut apostrophe. Okay, so I've set my in and my out, and I'm just going to press apostrophe, and I've made the extraction. I'll play over it.
And I do woodworking.
All right, I think I want to extract the next part too. I'm going to mark an in.
Various, a jack of all trades.
All right, and right before he says jack of all trades, I'll place an out point. All right, in, out, and I'll press apostrophe to extract. Let me play over both of those and see how it sounds.
I do woodworking, a jack of all trades.
All right, so this is called reductive editing, where we're actually reducing material in the timeline. Before, when we were defining segments within the source monitor and adding them one at a time, that was called additive editing. All right, so a different way to get the job done, but as you can see, it's pretty efficient. I'm going to continue on.
I've lived here since 1979.
All right, let's get rid of that little nose sniff there. I'm going to mark an in and an out.
Here
Mark an in
since
and mark an out there. And I just want to mention, instead of performing an extract, if I performed a lift, which corresponds to this on-screen button or the semicolon key, it leaves a gap, just like we saw before. Again, not what we want to do when we're cutting dialogue. We always want to extract. But while I have this gap, I'll show you one more way that you can close a gap, and that is simply to select the gap in the timeline and then press delete. All right, let's play over this and see what we think.
lived here since 1979.
All right, that's fine. I'll continue on.
I found this place by accident.
All right, and I think we need to get rid of where he says we and then he switches to I. Let me show you one more way that you can extract material, and that's using your transcript window. I'm going to just play over this, and I think we need to get rid of this part here.
Since 1979, I found this place.
Okay, so we want to get rid of we and then this little filler word here. Notice that when I highlighted that, it actually set an in and an out point in the timeline. So there's a couple things I can do here. I can select my timeline and then just press apostrophe to extract, or let me undo that. I can also use the extract command within the transcript window. Let me undo it one more time and I'll show you one more way. If I right click on that and then hit delete ripple, you can see that that also gets the job done. Now, using the transcript window, I can even do this in bulk, which is an amazing feature. I'm going to actually undo the last few extractions that I made because I need to put some filler words and pauses back into my sequence. So I'll just Command or Control Z several times. And now I'm going to just come up to my transcript window. And if I come up to this filter, I can filter on filler words, pauses, or more. I'm going to filter on filler words, and you can see that all of these filler words, which are his ums and ahs and that sort of thing, are now highlighted in the transcript. I can get rid of them one at a time by right-clicking and then choosing Ripple Delete, or I can actually delete them all at once by coming up to this delete command, and then I want to choose Extract, and then delete all, and watch what happens in both the transcript window and in the timeline. All my filler words are now gone, and all of those extractions have been made. It really is incredible. Let's go ahead and play over it and see how it did.
I'm a jack of all trades. I've lived here since 1979. I found this place by accident.
All right, pretty good. It performed all the extractions the way that we originally did it, except it left in this we. So I could just highlight that and extract apostrophe. All right, so I'll keep moving through my sequence and extract any more ums or ahs or dead space so Vince is concise and sounding his best. During the editing process, rearranging elements in the timeline is key. That means moving shots around, adding space to breathe, and just getting a really good sense of the energy and cadence of the program. Let's talk about some of the ways we can do this. I'm going to go into my 3.7 bin, and I'm going to load my pre-move sequence. And first, just to make it easier for this demonstration, I've color-coded different blocks of clips so it's easy to tell what we're moving. This is a fairly mechanical lesson, so I want you to be able to identify the separate elements a little bit better. Also, I do still have my transcript window up that we set up earlier in this chapter. We'll be using it here in just a bit. All right, so I think the first thing I'd like to do is create some space at the very beginning of the sequence. I think we'll be starting with some shots of Vince farming over some music rather than going straight into my teaser here. So let's move everything over. I could just select all of the clips and then drag like so. And it's easy to do for something short like this, but let me undo. Imagine this is a 30-minute long program and we want to move large blocks of clips around. A better tool to use is this one here, Track Select Forward. That corresponds to the A key on the keyboard. Okay, so all I do is I click on the clip that I would like to move. Notice that all clips to the right of that are selected, and then I can click and drag. Let me zoom in here. I'll press plus a few times. In addition to clicking and dragging, you can also nudge. So if I just need to nudge this over a few frames, I can select it and then press Command and right arrow, that's Alt right arrow on a PC, to nudge it one frame at a time to the right, or Command or Alt left arrow to nudge it one frame to the left. If I add Shift to that, then I go 5 frames at a time to the right or to the left.
All right, I'll zoom out, press minus a few times. I would also like to create some space in between each of these blocks. We'll let things breathe just a bit more. So I'm just going to select these clips and move them over. And same thing here, and same thing here. Notice, by the way, that in this menu is not only track select forward, keyboard shortcut A, but track select backward, keyboard shortcut shift A. So if I switched it to track select backward, then the same thing happens except my arrows go backwards to the left and I can select everything and move it like so. And as always, whenever you enable one of these tools, you always want to make sure to go back to the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. All right, so we've added some space in our program, opening things up a little bit. Now let's talk about how to swap shots. Here, I need to transpose these two clips. I'll just play over it and you'll see what I mean.
I'm a farmer and jack of all trades. I do woodworking.
Okay, so we know this shot should come before that one. Let me zoom in a little bit. If I just grab this clip and then drag it over to the right, it's an overwrite. That's not what we want. Instead, I want to hold down a modifier. That's Command on a Mac or Control on a PC. And you'll see that I get this line of arrows, and it tells me exactly where I'm going to splice this shot. So I'm going to let go here. Notice that I have snapping on, so I get this magnetism, and I'm going to release, and now I've transposed those shots. Let me undo that. Again, snapping is this command here, keyboard shortcut S. If I take snapping off and I try to perform that transpose, it's not magnetizing to that edit. Most of the time when you're transposing shots, you want to have snapping on. So I'll just press S to enable that and perform the swap. You can also swap entire blocks of clips. So if I want this one to come before that one, I'll just select this block and then hold down Command or Control on a PC, and then I've transposed those blocks. Let me undo that because I want to show you that you can also do this in the transcript window. So if you've used any word processing programs, it's just a matter of cut, copy, paste, all of the things that you already know how to do. So let's see. This block starts when he says, when I hit my mid-40s, and we know that we want that to go here instead of at the end. I'm going to select all of this text. Notice that when I do, my in and out point is set in the timeline. And if I wanted to copy this, I would press Command or Control C, but I want to cut it, so I'll press Command or Control X. All right, and you'll see that it was cut from the transcript window and the clips were cut from the timeline. And I want this to go right here, which corresponds to this part in the transcript. So I can simply select that part in the transcript and press Command or Control V to paste. And there we go. We've cut and pasted our clips by cutting and pasting our words. And I'll just do a track select right again here and put my gap back into my sequence. And I'll press V to get my selection tool back. All right, so that's a lesson on moving things around in the timeline and also moving things around using your transcript window. I'm going to load this sequence here, move in sequence, because I want to talk about one more thing with regard to moving clips in the timeline. When we're doing it in this situation, it's easy because we are transposing entire blocks of clips without anything happening above or below it. But again, if we have a more complicated sequence, it's not that easy. If I take this block of clips and I attempt to move it over, I'm holding down Command or Control on a PC, notice that it doesn't behave the way that we want. It's created this gap because there's other clips on other tracks involved. Let me undo that, Command or Control Z. And instead, when I have this situation where I want to transpose these two blocks of clips, I'm going to hold down another modifier. I'm going to hold down Command and Option on a Mac or Control and Alt on a PC. And notice that now my little white arrows are confined to the tracks that I'm actually moving in. Now I'll release, and I've transposed these two blocks, and everything above and below it was left alone. And I'll move this over to recreate my gap. All right, so that's pretty useful, especially when you have a lot of material in your timeline and you want to perform a local shot swap. So that's a glimpse to rearranging things in the timeline in Premiere Pro. Now you can create gaps, nudge, and perform shot swaps in various ways.